Imagine waking up one day to discover that every moment of your life has been meticulously tracked, measured, and optimized. Not by some dystopian government, but by yourself. Your morning routine timed to the second. Your breakfast calculated for maximum nutritional efficiency. Your commute transformed into a mobile classroom. Every red light an opportunity to consume another productivity podcast. Even your moments of rest have been colonized. Meditation apps reminding you that relaxation itself is just another form of optimization. You check your phone, 17 notifications from productivity apps. Your step counter judges you. Your meditation streak shames you. Your language learning app guilt trips you for missing yesterday's lesson. The irony doesn't escape you. You're too busy managing your productivity systems to actually produce anything meaningful. But here's the unsettling part. You chose this. Nobody forced you to download these apps, to read those books promising to unlock your limitless potential, to wake up at 4:47 a.m. because some guru claimed that's when high achievers rise. You volunteered for this prison, and worse, you've convinced yourself it's freedom. Consider this paradox. We live in the most productive era in human history, yet we feel more behind than ever. Our ancestors worked to live. We live to work, and then we work on ourselves when work is done. We've turned existence itself into a project to be optimized, a problem to be solved, a system to be hacked. But what if this relentless pursuit of productivity isn't making us more human, but less? What if the very metrics we use to measure our worth, output, efficiency, optimization, are the chains that bind us to a life devoid of meaning? You've felt it, haven't you? That gnawing sensation that despite checking every box, despite following every productivity protocol, something essential is missing. You're running faster than ever, but the finish line keeps moving. You're doing more than ever, but feeling less than ever. You've become a perfectly optimized machine, but somewhere along the way, you forgot what it means to be human. The most insidious lies are the ones we tell ourselves. And perhaps no lie is more pervasive, more destructive, than the myth that our value as human beings is directly proportional to our productive output. This isn't just about time management or work-life balance. This is about the fundamental question of what it means to exist in the modern world. Why do you feel guilty when you're not being productive? Why does a lazy Sunday afternoon feel like a moral failing? Why have we internalized the logic of the factory floor and applied it to every aspect of our existence? These aren't just personal failings or individual neuroses. You're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're not broken for questioning whether this is all there is. You're responding to a system that has colonized not just your time, but your very consciousness. A system that has convinced you that your worth is measured in output, that rest is theft, that every moment not optimized is a moment wasted. But what if everything you've been taught about productivity is not just wrong, but actively harmful? What if the path to a meaningful life isn't through doing more, but through doing less? What if the secret isn't optimization, but acceptance? What if the highest form of productivity is learning when not to produce? The rabbit hole goes deeper than you think. This isn't just about rejecting hustle culture or finding work-life balance. This is about understanding how we've been programmed to see ourselves as human capital, as walking ROI calculations, as biological machines whose primary function is to generate value for systems that see us as nothing more than resources to be extracted. You're about to discover why you can't rest without guilt, why success feels empty, and why no amount of productivity will ever feel like enough. More importantly, you're about to understand how this happened, how an entire civilization became addicted to the drug of endless optimization, and why breaking free requires more than just better time management techniques. The journey ahead will challenge everything you believe about success, value, and what it means to live a life worth living. Because the prison of productivity isn't just around you, it's inside you. And the first step to freedom is recognizing the bars, the hidden problem and its psychological and philosophical roots. The roots of our productivity obsession run deeper than capitalism or technology. They burrow into the very core of Western consciousness, into questions that have haunted humanity since we first became aware of our own mortality. Friedrich Nietzsche saw it coming. In the wake of God's death, he warned, humans would need new values, new meanings. What he didn't foresee was that we would transform productivity itself into our new deity, a jealous God that demands constant sacrifice and offers no salvation. Consider what Viktor Frankl discovered in the concentration camps. Humans can endure almost any suffering if they find meaning in it. But we've inverted his insight. Instead of finding meaning in our actions, we've made action itself the meaning. We've confused motion with progress, busyness with purpose, output with worth. The existential vacuum Frankl warned about hasn't been filled. It's been wallpapered over with to-do lists and productivity metrics. This isn't merely a philosophical problem. It's encoded in your neurology. Your brain, evolved for survival in small tribes, now navigates a world of infinite demands and comparisons. Every notification triggers the same fight or flight response your ancestors felt when stalked by predators. But unlike them, you can never outrun the threat because the predator is the system itself, and you carry it in your pocket. The dopamine hit from checking off a task, the cortisol spike from an unread email, the serotonin boost from public recognition of your achievements. You've become a neurochemical slot machine, pulling the lever of productivity, hoping for the jackpot of fulfillment that never comes. Your brain, hijacked by intermittent reinforcement schedules, keeps you trapped in what B.F. Skinner discovered could make even pigeons go insane. Unpredictable rewards for predictable behavior. But the psychological roots go deeper still. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. In our productivity-obsessed culture, what have we cast into shadow? Rest, play, contemplation, being. We've made virtues of doing and achieving while demonizing their opposites. The result? A civilization of human doings, not human beings. The Protestant work ethic, which Max Weber identified as capitalism's spiritual engine, has metastasized into something its original proponents wouldn't recognize. Where Calvinists once worked hard to demonstrate their salvation, we work hard to create it. But salvation from what? The answer is terrifying in its simplicity. From ourselves. From the fundamental anxiety of existence that Soren Kierkegaard called the dizziness of freedom. You're free to be anything, so you must be everything. You're capable of infinite choices, so you must optimize every choice. The burden of this freedom crushes you, so you seek refuge in the false certainty of productivity systems. Better to be a highly efficient cog than to face the vertiginous reality of your own agency. Arthur Schopenhauer understood this centuries ago. Life, he argued, is suffering, a constant striving that never reaches satisfaction. Achieve one goal and another appears. Fulfill one desire and 10 more arise. His solution was to escape the will to live through aesthetic contemplation and compassion. But we've done the opposite. We've amplified the will, turbocharged the striving, and called it self-improvement. The hidden problem isn't that you're not productive enough. It's that you've accepted productivity as the measure of your existence. You've internalized what Michel Foucault called disciplinary power, the way modern societies control not through force, but through normalization. You don't need a boss cracking a whip when you've internalized the whip. You've become both prisoner and guard in your own panopticon. This is where Jean-Paul Sartre's concept of bad faith becomes crucial. You know deep down that you're free to reject this system. You could choose to value presence over productivity, being over doing, depth over efficiency. But that freedom terrifies you. So you pretend you have no choice. You say, "I have to," when you mean, "I choose to." You hide your freedom from yourself behind the mask of necessity. The productivity gospel promises to solve the problem of existence through systematic effort. But existence isn't a problem to be solved. It's a reality to be lived. By treating life as a series of tasks to be optimized, we've created what Aldous Huxley warned about, a brave new world where our oppression feels like liberation, where our chains feel like wings. The most insidious aspect? This system doesn't just exploit your labor, it colonizes your consciousness. You don't just work for the machine, you think like the machine. You've internalized its logic so completely that inefficiency feels like sin, rest feels like rebellion, and simply being feels like betrayal of your potential. You're not struggling with time management. You're struggling with the commodification of existence itself. And until you understand this, no productivity system, no life hack, no optimization technique will ever bring you peace. Because you're using the master's tools to dismantle the master's house. And as Audre Lorde taught us, that's a game you can never win. The unseen consequences. The consequences of our productivity obsession aren't immediately visible. They accumulate like microplastics in the ocean, invisible to the naked eye, but poisoning the entire ecosystem. You don't notice them until one day you realize you've forgotten how to be still, how to think without an agenda, how to exist without justifying your existence through output. Consider what happens to your relationships when every interaction becomes an opportunity for networking, every conversation a potential podcast episode, every moment of connection something to be leveraged. You've turned love into a productivity metric, scheduling quality time, optimizing date nights, treating intimacy as another KPI to track. But love, like play, dies the moment it becomes work. Your children learn by watching. They see you checking emails during their school plays, taking calls during dinner, turning their artwork into content for your personal brand. They internalize the message. They are worth your attention only when it's scheduled, only when it's efficient, only when it doesn't interfere with your productivity. You're raising a generation that will perfect what you started. Humans so optimized, they've forgotten how to be human. The neurological rewiring runs deeper than you realize. Your brain's default mode network, the system active during rest that's crucial for creativity, self-reflection, and emotional processing, atrophies from disuse. You've trained yourself to feel anxious without external stimulation, to panic in silence, to fill every moment with input. The consequence? A profound inability to access your own depths, to hear your own thoughts, to know your own mind. This constant state of productive arousal triggers what researchers call allostatic load, the wear and tear on your body from chronic stress. Your cortisol levels remain perpetually elevated. Your immune system weakens, your telomeres shorten. You're literally aging faster in your quest to do more. The productivity that promises to give you more life is stealing the life you have. But the physical consequences pale compared to the existential ones. You've lost the ability to distinguish between urgent and important, between motion and progress, between efficiency and effectiveness. Everything feels urgent because you've lost the perspective that comes from stillness. You're like a GPS system that never stops recalculating, constantly adjusting your route, but forgetting your destination. The commodification of time has led to a peculiar modern poverty, temporal poverty. Despite labor-saving devices and efficiency tools, you feel more time-starved than ever. Why? Because you've internalized the capitalist logic that time is money, that every moment must generate value. You've turned time from a river you swim in into a resource you mine. And like all strip mining operations, it leaves the landscape barren. Your attention, fragmented into productivity-sized chunks, can no longer sustain deep thought. You've become what Nicholas Carr warned about, shallow thinkers in an age requiring depth. Complex problems requiring sustained attention feel impossible because you've trained yourself for the quick hit, the rapid response, the efficient solution. But life's real challenges, love, death, meaning, purpose, don't yield to efficiency hacks. The social consequences ripple outward. We've created a society of human doings judging other human doings, a mutual surveillance system where everyone monitors everyone else's productivity. Social media becomes a performance of busyness, a competitive display of who's grinding hardest. We've turned existence into an exhausting performance where the audience is everyone and no one. This productivity theater masks a deeper truth. We're more disconnected than ever. Real community requires inefficiency, the rambling conversation, the purposeless gathering, the waste of time that builds bonds. But who has time for that? We've optimized away the very inefficiencies that make us human, that create culture, that build civilization. The environmental consequences mirror the personal ones. A productivity-obsessed culture demands endless growth on a finite planet. We've internalized the same extractive logic we apply to the earth. Squeeze out every resource, maximize every output, optimize every process. The burnout you feel is the planet's burnout, made personal. Perhaps most tragically, we've lost the ability to recognize wisdom. In a culture that values productivity over reflection, The wise elder who moves slowly but sees clearly has no place. We've replaced wisdom with efficiency, depth with speed, understanding with information processing. We're drowning in data, but starving for meaning. You know something's wrong when you feel guilty reading a book without taking notes, when you can't watch a sunset without photographing it, when you can't have a thought without tweeting it. You've turned every experience into content, every moment into material, every feeling into fuel for the productivity machine. The ultimate consequence? A profound alienation from your own existence. You've become a stranger to yourself, unable to access your own depths because you're too busy managing your surface. You're performing life rather than living it, optimizing an existence you never stopped to experience. This isn't sustainable. Your soul knows it, even if your mind denies it. The anxiety you feel isn't a personal failing. It's your psyche's rebellion against an inhuman system. The depression epidemic isn't a chemical imbalance. It's a rational response to an irrational world. Your burnout isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Your being's last-ditch attempt to save you from yourself. The path to freedom doesn't lie in better productivity systems or more sophisticated optimization techniques. It lies in a fundamental rebellion against the entire paradigm. This isn't about working smarter. It's about questioning why you're working at all. It's about reclaiming your right to exist without justification, to be valuable without being useful, to matter without producing. The first act of rebellion is the hardest, doing nothing. Not meditation, not mindfulness, not any form of productive rest, simply nothing. Sit with the discomfort that arises. Feel the anxiety, the guilt, the voice screaming that you're wasting time. That voice isn't yours. It's the internalized oppressor. Every moment you resist it, you reclaim a piece of your soul. Herman Melville's Bartleby knew this truth when he simply said, "I would prefer not to." Not a violent refusal, not an angry rejection, just a calm assertion of preference. You too can prefer not to. Prefer not to optimize your morning routine. Prefer not to turn your hobby into a side hustle. Prefer not to measure your worth in metrics. The ancient Greeks had a word, skol, from which we derive school. It meant leisure, but not leisure as we understand it, not recovery time to make you more productive, but leisure as the highest human activity. Time for contemplation, for philosophy, for becoming fully human. The rebellion begins when you reclaim skol, when you insist on time that serves no purpose beyond its own existence. Consider the radical act of single-tasking in a multitasking world. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you listen to someone, just listen. No secondary agenda, no optimization, no efficiency. This isn't inefficiency, it's presence. It's choosing depth over breadth, intensity over extensity, being over doing. The Stoics understood something we've forgotten. You can't control outcomes, only intentions. Marcus Aurelius, running an empire, found peace not in productivity, but in acceptance. The rebellion isn't about it. It's finding what the Bhagavad Gita calls action without attachment to fruits. Start with boundaries that feel like blasphemy. Turn off notifications, all of them. Create phone-free zones in your home. Establish sacred time that belongs to no one, serves no purpose, generates no value. Watch how the world doesn't end. Notice how the urgent tasks weren't. Observe how space creates clarity, how emptiness enables fullness. The artist Agnes Martin spent decades painting subtle grids, work that demanded presence over productivity. She understood beauty is the mystery of life. It is not in the eye, it is in the mind. The rebellion involves rediscovering beauty, not as something to capture and share, but as something to experience and release. Reclaim unproductive pleasures. Read without highlighting. Walk without tracking steps. Have conversations without networking. Cook without photographing. Make love without scheduling. Play without purpose. These aren't indulgences, they're acts of resistance against a system that wants to monetize every moment. The Japanese concept of ikigai has been corrupted in the West into another productivity framework. Originally, it simply meant life's worth, often found in small daily pleasures. Your grandmother's ikigai might be her morning tea, not her world-changing purpose. The rebellion means embracing small ikigai over grand purpose. Challenge the tyranny of goals. Instead of living for future achievements, practice what Alan Watts called the wisdom of insecurity. Embracing uncertainty, dancing with chaos, finding joy in purposelessness. This isn't nihilism, it's liberation. It's discovering that life isn't a problem to solve, but a mystery to experience. Create what Jenny Odell calls contexts of refusal, spaces and practices that resist productivity logic. A garden that grows food you don't need, art you'll never sell, stories you'll never publish, skills you'll never monetize. These aren't wastes of time, they're assertions of your humanity against forces that would reduce you to your output. The rebellion requires allies. Find others who question the productivity gospel. Create communities of resistance, not another networking group, but actual communion. Share meals without agenda. Have rambling conversations. Waste time together. In a world that isolates through busyness, connection itself becomes rebellion. Learn from those who've always known better. Indigenous cultures that value being over having. Artists who choose poverty over selling out. Monks who've opted out of the race entirely. Children who haven't yet learned that play must be productive. The wisdom you seek isn't new, it's ancient, waiting to be remembered. The ultimate rebellion? Accepting that you might achieve less, produce less, optimize less, and discovering that your life becomes more present, more connected, more meaningful. This isn't about becoming lazy or dropping out. It's about choosing a different metric entirely, not how much you produce, but how fully you live. Your rebellion starts now with the next choice you make. Will you check another item off your list, or will you step outside and feel the sun? Will you optimize another process, or will you have a purposeless conversation? Will you produce more content, or will you create more silence? The revolution isn't coming, it's here, waiting for you to join it. All it requires is the courage to stop, to rest without guilt, default, to exist without justification, to be human in a world that wants you to be a machine. Here's the truth that changes everything. You were never broken. The system that convinced you that you needed to be optimized, that you weren't enough, that you had to earn your right to exist, that system was the malfunction, not you. Your exhaustion isn't weakness, it's the appropriate response of a human being asked to perform as a machine. Your resistance to productivity culture isn't laziness. It's your soul's intelligence protecting you from a kind of living death. The ultimate paradox reveals itself. By releasing the desperate need to be productive, you become truly generative. Not productive in the mechanical sense of outputting units, but generative in the organic sense of creating life, meaning, connection. A tree doesn't try to be productive, it simply expresses its nature. And in doing so, it provides oxygen, shelter, beauty, and life to countless beings. You too are meant to express your nature, not manufacture your worth. Think about death for a moment, not morbidly, but honestly. On your deathbed, will you regret the emails you didn't send, the optimization techniques you didn't master, the productivity apps you didn't use? Or will you regret the sunsets you didn't watch, the conversations you cut short, the moments of presence you sacrificed for efficiency? Death is the ultimate teacher of priorities, and it has never once advocated for productivity. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act just once with beauty and courage." The dragon of productivity, the monster of endless optimization, is actually a princess in disguise, the princess of your own authentic life, waiting for you to stop performing and start being. What if your worth was inherent, not earned? What if you matter simply because you exist, not because of what you produce? This isn't feel-good philosophy. It's the fundamental truth that productivity culture obscures. A baby contributes nothing in terms of productive output, yet we recognize its infinite worth. When did you lose that inherent value? You didn't. You were just taught to forget it. The real work, if we can even call it work, isn't about doing more. It's about undoing. Undoing the conditioning that equates your value with your output. Undoing the programming that makes rest feel like theft. Undoing the beliefs that turned you into your own taskmaster. This undoing isn't another project to optimize. It's a gentle returning, like waves returning to the ocean. You are not a human resource. You are not capital, human or otherwise. You are not a brand, a platform, or a productivity machine. You are a brief arrangement of atoms that somehow became conscious, a temporary pattern in the universe that can experience beauty, love, wonder, and pain. Your purpose isn't to optimize this cosmic accident, but to fully experience it. The mystics knew enlightenment isn't about ascending to some higher plane of productivity. It's about descending fully into the present moment, discovering that everything you sought through endless doing was always available in simply being. The kingdom of heaven, as Jesus said, is within you, not at the end of your to-do list. Here's what happens when you truly understand this. The anxiety loosens its grip. Not because you've solved the problem of productivity, but because you've dissolved it. You realize it was never a problem to begin with, just a very convincing illusion. You stop trying to justify your existence and start experiencing it. This doesn't mean you'll never work again or never create anything, but your action will arise from fullness, not emptiness. You'll create because creation flows through you, not because you need to prove your worth. You'll work when work is called for, rest when rest is needed, play when play arises. You'll live according to your nature, not according to an internalized assembly line. The ultimate truth is both simpler and more radical than any productivity hack. You are already whole. You are already worthy. You are already enough. Not because of what you've achieved, but because of what you are. A unique expression of consciousness in an infinite universe. Sex 0.05. Irreplaceable and unrepeatable. Your life isn't a problem to be solved or a resource to be optimized. It's a gift to be received, a mystery to be lived, a dance to be danced. The music has been playing all along. You were just too busy being productive to hear it. So here's your choice, the only one that really matters. Will you continue to live as a human doing, forever chasing the next achievement, the next optimization, the next level of productivity? Or will you reclaim your birthright as a human being, present to the miracle of existence itself? The prison door has always been unlocked. The key was never productivity. It was presence. The path was never optimization. It was acceptance. The goal was never to become superhuman. It was to become fully human. Step outside. Feel the air on your skin. Notice the play of light and shadow. Listen to the sounds of life happening all around you. This moment, this one, right here, is your life. Not your future productivity, not your past achievements, but this, here, now. You are free. You have always been free. The only question is, will you finally allow yourself to live as if you are? The revolution doesn't require you to storm any barricades. It only requires you to stop, to breathe, to remember who you were before the world told you who you had to be. Welcome home to yourself. You've been waiting for you.